All right, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is Wednesday, November 12th at 4:08, and it does appear we have 4 commissioners present, so we do have a quorum. We will start with the minutes from the September meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve, or if there are any corrections to those minutes.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the September meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those are approved 4-0. We will move on to the reports.
Okay, before we get started on the reports, I do want to make an amendment on the term expiration, which is on your agenda. Dot Brandenburger has been reinstated as a commission member. She was reinstated as of July 1st of 2025. So she'll be here again through July 31st of 2028. So you'll see that correction on the next agenda for next month. All right, so we are going to be covering both August and September since we did not have an October meeting. For August, you'll notice that our domestic intake was up by 4.2%. Our wildlife was up by just over 17%, and our total overall intakes was again up by 4.2%, which is right on trend. We are estimating that we're going to still see over 11,000 animals by the end of 2025. I did want to share with you, I modified the animal outcomes section to include all of the live outcomes in that overall percentage. So adoptions, rescue transfer, community cats, and return to owners are now included together, where before return to owner was separated. So it just didn't make sense to do that. So from here forward, you'll see that all live outcomes are being totaled together so we can have like a better comparison. So for the month of August, we did see a decrease compared to 2024 by an overall 3.73%. Not a horrible difference, but still a reduction compared to last year's live outcomes. Our animals currently in foster for the month of August, we ended the month at 237, which was up by 16.7%. Our total activities were down by 14.5%. We had our bites are staying consistent compared to 2024 for the month of August. Our tickets, we did issue more tickets, just under 21%. We did not have any cases at the state level submitted to the prosecutor's office for the month of August. And then overall, your animal care balance was up by 6.4% for the month of August. Using a similar scenario for September, our overall domestic intake was up by 39.7%, and I will share with you the reason why is we took in over 190 chickens at one house. So that is why we had a large overall domestic intake from that case. And we had a wildlife increase of 10%, so our overall intake did go up by 38%, and that was predominantly because of the chickens. Our overall outcomes, again, I included the return to owner along with the community cats, rescue transfers, and adoptions. It was up by 11.1% compared to the previous year, with the largest overall outcome being community cats. That was the largest increase, as well as adoptions. Adoptions had a large increase for adoptions, which is great. Or September, I should say. Our animals currently in foster at the end of September was a big drop compared to August. We had 180 compared to last year's 120. And then our total activities, again, were down by about 6.2%. Obviously we were down a couple officers, so that would be another reason why we had a reduced number of activities. Can't run as many calls when you don't have as many officers. We did have an increase of tickets being issued again, so 26.6%. We submitted 6 cases in the month of September to the prosecutor's office compared to 7 last year. And then your balance, animal care fund, is up by 4.3% as of the end of September.
questions, comments on those numbers? Okay, cool. Move on to education.
Okay, thankfully, our last two meetings went over summer break. Basically, we didn't have school in, so it's been a nice little chance for us to catch up to all of our October events and things like that, getting our camp schedule for next year ready. So we did that. We also worked on an email, me and Ellie did, who is our humane education intern, to start sending out to schools, which she has begun doing. So they're receiving information about our newly updated programs and how we're including middle school and high school as well. So that's been getting sent out, and we have had some schools starting to reach out to us to get those visits scheduled. So hopefully that continues to grow. We have already up to now completed 2 middle school visits and an elementary school visit, with multiple already scheduled for November and December. We've been at a lot of outreach events over the last few months, safety events, community outreach events, and have also participated in the JA Job Spark, which had over 7,000 students. The whole team was out there, as well as officers, so that was very, very busy. And we've been working on our upcoming December events, so it's been pretty busy.
Awesome. Any questions, comments? All right, we will shift on to marketing and fundraising.
Good to see you all again after such a long break. So jumping right into some stats, for September we had $16,154 in direct mail revenue, then $13,378.05 of direct mail expense. Our Fund 437 donations were $19,254.56. Fund 438 was $10,730.18 for a total of $29,984.74. Had 38 first-time donors and 57 recurring donors. And then similarly with October, direct mail revenue was $21,181. Expenses were $10,932.66. Fund 437 donations came out to $23,319.32. Fund 438 donations were $23,095.85 for a total of $46,415.17. With 31 first-time donors and 59 recurring donors. And then kind of just jumping to some overall updates. Last week I wrapped up 2 grant applications. One was pretty hefty. It was our very first ever federal grant application with the Bureau of Justice Assistance to hopefully get some matching funding to purchase 6 additional body cameras by September 2028. Definitely lots of curveballs, like just weird little details with that one. So glad to have that under my belt. So if we apply for other federal grants, I know maybe a little more of what I'm doing. So then we also applied for a PetSmart Charities grant to purchase funds for, or receive funds for new kennels at our PetSmart locations to hopefully increase adoptions just by having that additional space. And then we would also commit to some off-site adoption events with that. Oh yeah, Tina also applied for a community foundation grant as I was just busy with these other things, and that was for our pet retention fund, hopefully to kind of beef that back up as it's gotten pretty low lately.
Did you have a dollar amount for that, or is that just they'll award us whatever they feel?
We requested $10,000 for that, but
Thank you.
they kind of adjust since it's the end of the cycle for the
Sure.
year.
Oh, and I can grab the dollar amounts for the others as well if you'd like for the minutes. And then since we last saw you, we had 2 fundraising events. Pause and Run 5K was on October 4th. We had 103 registrations overall. 94 were for the 5K and 9 were for the Fun Run costume course. We had $1,650 in sponsorship across 8 different sponsors. Our gross revenue was $3,008.80, with our net revenue after expenses being $2,702.16. So I think the more meaningful number, at least to me, is the cost per dollar raised, which we spent about 11 cents on every dollar raised. So that's really efficient fundraising. If you're getting up to 50 cents on a dollar, that's when you're really worrying about like, is this event worthwhile? But anything under 20, I think, is really good. So pretty proud of that 11 cents on the dollar. And then going into Halloween that we had on October 18th for the Education Fund, we had 24 costume contest registrations and probably about 250 people in attendance. We didn't have a single entry point, so it's kind of hard to tell over at Promenade Park, but we did bring in $5,250 in sponsorships across 16 sponsors with gross revenue of $10,881 and net revenue of $9,762, with our cost per dollar raised being 10 cents. So another efficient fundraising event. And then just this past weekend, we had a donor appreciation event. I think things went over really well. The whole staff pulled together to get the shelter cleaned up and smelling good and all that good stuff. And so we're still kind of getting feedback from staff and guests.
Any questions, comments from the group? Just to clarify, the PetSmart Charities grant, so this is new kennels above and beyond the existing kennel space they have.
So it'd be swapping out.
It
what we
would
have.
add an additional kennel to both locations.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Additional kennel
Yeah.
spots. So we have
Gotcha.
3 at one, 2 at one, put us to 3, 4 at the other, put us to 5.
Okay, cool, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Any thoughts from the rest of the group? Okay, perfect, we'll move on to volunteers.
All right, for August, we had 1,414 hours, 148 hours over previous August. And then in September, we had 1,352 hours, a little over 91 hours more than last year. So still on a great trend of keeping our staffing levels up here. Still kind of in the same area, spending a lot of hours in laundry. It hasn't stopped. But offsites continue to do well. We've outpaced adoptions at offsites as far as comparing it to the shelter, so that's where a lot of our hours continue to go, which has been great. We did our second library offsite event at Aboit. We brought 9 kittens this time, and all 9 got adopted, so that's 2 in a row. We've had 100%, so we only brought 5 the first time because we weren't sure how to measure it. So another great turnout, great event, super easy on our end to do. So we're already partnering with them so we get in their spring program. You guys may not know this, the library is like out on top of it. They have to have things like 6-9 months in advance published and like set in stone on their calendar. So so we're looking at, we requested like April at the earliest, but hopefully like a May, June. So we have lots and lots of kittens ready to go. We've had a few groups in since last time we chatted. Homestead students made some blankets for us back at the school. And we did a tour for about 8 to 10 of the students and a couple faculty, just to say thank you. Bishop Lures, they've been making blankets for us for a couple years now. They do a huge volunteer event at the school, so they made 126 blankets for us, which it usually takes us about 5 months worth of volunteer groups to make anywhere near that amount. So that's huge. We'll let them keep doing that as long as they absolutely want to. They always get offered to come and do a tour. They don't take me up on it, but they are welcome to come. We had a group from Hexture in, 5 of them. They helped clean windows, some hallways and stuff up in our adoption area. You don't need to. And then we had a large group of 12 from 3 Rivers. They've been doing it annually with us. They did a tons of things. They made treats. They made a lot of cat shelters, about 40 some of them, and then helped us make blankets as well. All right. That's it for adoption or volunteer world.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, if none, then that concludes the reports, and I would entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of the August and September reports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those are approved 4-0. All right, we will next move on to new business. First item is 2026 general fund budget.
Okay, so I think this is probably only the second time since I've been director that I did not have to go to the table for our 2026 general fund budget. There were some preliminary discussions ahead of time, and the only cuts for our budget were the 2 vehicles that we were anticipated to get for 2026. So those were removed from our budget, but other than that, everything else was remaining, it has remained intact. So our 2026 budget was approved and with no further cuts, so we were excited about that. I did submit, hopefully, I think I sent it after I sent the initial email. You should have an updated court fines paid per month to the controller, and just as a reminder, this is considered part of our revenue stream. So Lisa, when she gets this from the controller's office, she looks for the ordinance number where the violation was paid for, so she knows which one applies to us. And as of October 31st, our total collected is $50,484, and that is a general fund revenue, which helps offset the cost of our operating budget. Marilyn Swain had listed us as a recipient as part of her estate. For November business, when you see your balance for November, when we get to that, you will have an increase of $27,270.95. That was through her Charles Schwab accounts. So the controller's office assisted me with that, and that will again be deposited into your account for November. All right, the next 2 items are things that we had agreed upon via email, but as per required, we're going to put these into the actual notes. So RKD had a 2026 mailing that they needed approval on prior to our meeting this month. And so they had requested that we go ahead and get approved the postage, which totaled $2,836.86. The balance of the mailing will not come out until 2026 approved plan, which we'll be discussing later in this meeting. But for January, I did get votes via email from Cody, Dot, PJ, and Aaron approving the postage be paid using 2025 budget, which we have plenty, in the amount of $2,836.86. So I think how we did it before is we need an official.
Sure, yep. So, yeah, I appreciate that update, and I would go ahead and initiate that motion to approve $2,836.86 to cover the postage for that RKD January 2026 mailing. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Similar fashion, Shelter Appreciation Week was the first week in October, and had I thought about it, that pretty much would have been the only thing on our agenda for October, but I didn't think that I should utilize an hour of your time for that. So I did ask via email for a not to exceed $800 to fund various snacks and food for our staff for Shelter Appreciation Week, and I did receive approval via email from Aaron, Cody, and Dot, so I need a similar request.
Okay, I'd go ahead and make that motion to approve an amount not to exceed $800 to cover hospitality for staff for Shelter Appreciation Week.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is approved 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. This next one, as Tina already alluded, she did apply for, or actually Sophia did on her behalf. Tina applied for the Community Foundation grant for our pet retention services. For those of you not familiar what pet retention services include, it also includes our SNAP certificate. So that is a spay-neuter assistance program. So for people that are trying to get their pets altered at a reduced rate, they pay $20 for a certificate, and then I have 2 locations in Fort Wayne that accept the full face value of the certificate, which is, I believe, $100. They pay $20 towards it, we pay the rest, we reimburse the vet. So we have Waynedale and Humane Fort Wayne that accepts those certificates. Right now, our pet retention fund, this also includes minor medical assistance. It can be flea treatment, it could be vaccines, a multitude of things. It just does not include pet deposits. But the whole point of the pet retention services is to keep the pet in the home. As long as they're not being mistreated or malnourished or things like that, we try to keep pets in the home. So pet retention is not something that necessarily gets a lot of donations toward, even though we're requesting people put money back into it to offset it, it's just not quite enough. So I was asking in the interim, while we're waiting to hear back from Community Foundation, if we could request $3,000 to help offset how we can figure out how to sustain that pet retention program to keep pets out of the shelter and in their homes. And as an aside, one of the things that we are going to start doing is the Kroger points, the Kroger Plus, if you will, where you can donate to a charity. That money used to go to the adoption program, but as of Friday, Sophia asked Emily if she minded if we start putting it into the pet retention program.
Yeah.
For the community rewards, that's what it's called, community rewards. And Emily had no objections because the adoption fund is easily donated to. It's the only donation fund that is self-sustaining. So that, I don't know how often we get the community rewards.
It looks like we're getting them quarterly,
Okay.
and they're about $600, but it's nice to know that we'll have a steady $600 each quarter going into a fund that is kind of volatile.
Yes.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, so and again, of course, we're hoping that the Community Foundation pulls through with the grant, but if not, in the meantime, until we can figure out how to keep that program self-sustaining, we're requesting $3,000 to help fund pet retention services for our community.
Okay. And I apologize, you may have said it earlier. When might we expect a response from the Community Foundation regarding that?
I think we're supposed to find out towards the end of November.
November, okay.
So we had to apply by the end of October.
Okay, okay. All right, any thoughts, questions from the group on that? Okay, if not, I would go ahead and make that motion to allocate $3,000 to the pet retention fund to cover those services.
Second.
All right. Was that what you were just going to second?
That-
Was it?
no, he's-
Oh,
that's fine.
okay, all right, perfect. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is
Perfect.
approved, 4-0.
Thank you.
And yeah, just kudos on thinking of how we could maybe shuffle some things around to ensure that some of these funds that are maybe less, you know, apt to receive those dollars can get something coming in. So I appreciate the creative thought on that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next up.
so Amy Jo asked that I share this on the screen, so I'm gonna turn the TV on.
Because I figured it might be easier to see on the bigger screen. I know This is PJ's favorite part, is going over the budget for RKD.
I gotta look at that camera.
No, you just have to look at the TV.
Okay, I got you.
Because trying to print that out, sometimes it's not
I-
it's not pleasant.
Yeah.
You're either looking at
Agreed.
micro print,
Yes,
or you're looking
yes.
at like 6 pages long. We can always pause too.
The power to us.
Technology works better when you have an audience.
It does,
Right?
always.
It's like doing public math.
Yes. There we go. Oh, I don't know if that's any better. I'm sorry.
open Zoom.
There we go. She's zooming.
Okay.
There we go.
So, overall, the plan that they proposed to us is, would come out to a total cost of $117,000, or $117,507, which you see right here. Tina and I worked through this to figure out some things that we might want to cut. Just, of course, they're going to propose that we send something every month so that they get money every month. And so we were proposing cutting their July mailing and part of their August mailing. You can see those sections that kind of a blue outline. And then a chunk of their holiday drive because it's just not very prosperous. It's about $10,000 negative, so probably not going to do that. It's just for a certain audience where it's just not a high ROI. So with those cuts, that would bring us down to $91,307.97. Any questions? Anything I could go into more detail on for you all?
For the July mailer,
Yeah.
what is that mailer called and what does it cost?
It is a newer piece, it's not something they've done in the past, I guess, called the Annual Friend Loyal Survey. And it would have cost $6,460.
And then is the August 2nd portion their follow-up mailer?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like their second chance. So if you don't.
Building on July.
Yeah.
So the same list, we're just hitting them
Actually,
again.
building on August. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah, so if you don't answer me within 2 weeks, I'm sending you another one.
Ew,
Yeah,
okay.
it's tricky because they're August, or it hits mailed the last week of July, but August campaign, it's called Second Chance.
Right.
Because it's Second Chance for animals, but then it's Second Chance Reminder. So second chance for your second chance. We're gonna cut the reminder.
And then that second chance reminder, what is that cost?
That will cost $3,033.
Okay. And then the holiday portion, which one, or what portion are you guys suggesting that we cut?
So it's a lapsed reactivation, but we have other lapsed reactivation in that same quarter of the year. And that cost would have been $16,705 with an anticipated net income of negative $10,000.
So, all right. Go ahead, I talk a lot during these.
Have you ever seen the other council? Especially during budget season. So
their income projections are projected off of past performance, or,
Yeah, I
Like
don't
on
know
that first-
necessarily what their formula is. I don't know if it's specific to us or if it's just kind of, because they work with a lot of shelters and do all the same mailings at all the shelters, so.
I guess my question, the overall larger question is, how does if you look at what they budgeted us, the, $228,000 of revenue on $117,000 of expenses, how does that compare to other shelters across the country? Like, are we underperforming, overperforming, about where we'd expect to be?
According to them, we actually perform very well in our area. I don't know, because of course, they don't compare us physically in their overview to other shelters. They just tell us, like nationally or statistically, you're meeting your ROI on these mailers. And we should try something new. So, but the biggest take back from this is that eventually, we want, because Sophia has experience in this, to do some in-house mailings. We can't do it all.
Right.
Sure.
So eventually, her goal is to see what's working, and then what can she add to it so we can take away from RKD.
Yeah.
But the first thing she told me today was, RKD is actually worth it.
Okay.
So that's the biggest thing. And I trust her based on her experience and her knowledge on mailings, which is something that we haven't had.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it in general and going, we're spending 120,000 to get 230,000 back. So we're spending 120 and we're only getting 110 back. We'd be better off just to take that 120 and just straight give it to you guys for whatever operations you need. Now, I know it's more intrinsic to that because you're building the brand and promoting the
Right.
effort, but I'm just looking at like from a dollar standpoint, we're spending 120 to get 110,000 back, 10,000 foot
Yeah.
picture. Like, I mean, from a business perspective, that's not an investment I continually make if I knew I was gonna lose $10,000 going into it. Just
Well,
at
we
face value.
we still
make
gain back
a
on the
hundred,
spend.
we're profiting 100 overall, so we're getting our 100 back plus 100 on top of that.
Okay.
We're getting
So-
200 in.
But, and I think it's still a fair conversation point, because to the point earlier about, the cost
Yeah,
per
but
dollar.
our net profit's only 110. Because we get 230 back, but we're spending 120.
Right,
Yes,
right.
Yes. So to the point earlier about, what is our cost per dollar gain?
Yeah.
So when you look at those events, those are more efficient ways of doing that at a smaller scale. So I see your point, and
Yeah.
I think.
And I'll also note that the events, I did not include labor, assuming the sunk cost of, if I wasn't working on those events, I'd still be working on fundraising. So
Sure. Yeah, and I
But
think that's
still, like-
yeah.
just wanted to clarify, that was not accounted for.
So, and I think that's where, I recall, I don't know exactly when it was, but so last time RKD had brought a proposal to us, similar sort of thing. We said, okay, thanks for, here's their starting point, that again, they're gonna.
They're gonna go for everything.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
they're running a
That's their
business,
job.
I get
Yes.
that, right, exactly. So they're gonna say, hey, here's all the things we could possibly do. And I recall last sort of round of this, we did a similar type of trimming to what they offered based on, hey, we don't want to have too many touch points, we don't want to annoy our donors, where's the right mix so we can get that ROI to a better place. And not to toot our own horns, but I think we did pretty well, if I recall, based on how we had trimmed that, because we still actually, I think, saw a better ROI on the spend than what their initial
Yeah, yeah.
proposal was. So on this one, I think, kind of in line, Kyle, with where your brain's at, I think the idea is that we're wanting to amend this proposal to a point where we're spending a little bit less, but actually just focusing again more on those items that generate an ROI. It's interesting to me that they would provide proposals that just straight up lose money. That's interesting. So I think obvious, maybe low-hanging fruit to say, well, yeah, we don't want to do that, right? But so I'd be curious then, with the proposed changes that you all have identified, where that puts those final amounts in gross revenue, total cost, and net revenue compared to their proposal.
Which, yeah, we were doing, we were.
And I apologize, I know there's a lot of
You're
math
okay. No,
involved,
yeah,
but I'm not
we
even gonna
were
attempt to do some
working
math.
on this like up to the minute, and so I was like, I can definitely get the
Sure,
expense
Sure.
calculated.
Because I think that
So-
would address part of that. That gets
Yeah.
that ratio, I think, to a better spot that makes a little more sense.
And then my follow-up question was, you know, historically, have we gone back and said, okay, when we did the agreement, we said we were gonna spend 100, they said we were gonna make 2, what did we actually make? Did we, like, so can we historically look at it and say,
Compare
okay, we spent 100,
projections to actuals.
they said we were gonna make 2, we brought in 275, or we only brought in 180? Does that make,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say too, I think, and someone jump in if I'm remembering something incorrectly. At one point, we were exploring, okay, do we need to shift to a different vendor completely?
We talked
or
about that last year.
Yeah, or I like where the thought is, hey, are there some of these things that we can maybe move in-house without sort of overburdening the staff in a way that, you know, everyone's folding envelopes and stuff, whatever, you know, folding up. But,
Yes, we
So-
hand fold our own envelopes here
yes,
too.
yes,
That really
yeah,
saves
yeah.
money.
But I will also say, I think, I would be hesitant to, even if the ratio isn't where we want it to be today, I would hate to, I'd certainly abandon it completely,
Right.
because there's still dollars being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
generated that, so, but I like where I think the staff is heading in, hey, let's look at this a little more closely and figure out, based on what they proposed, what really makes the most sense for us, with the eye towards long-term shifting away from utilizing an outside vendor quite as much for times when it makes sense to do an in-house sort of piece. So, all right, I'm gonna stop
We
talking.
probably
for a
have to
moment.
get equipment.
And that was
for
kind of,
too.
that was kind of where I was getting to, like, it looks like they cut about 26,000 out, but if cutting that 26,000 out didn't affect the 228 or the 230.
Right.
Then we're
Getting to a better place.
Yeah, we're getting to a better
Yep,
Oh,
agreed.
Speaking of cuts, I thought we talked about this last year, maybe not. Do we need to cut one around our gala this year? Because we didn't want to double dip last year.
Right. So I actually vouched for keeping one around there, one, because it's still communication saying, hey, we have this event coming up, because there is one in
It will be
April.
for our gala?
Yeah, it would be before the gala. And then also, the gala still only touches 300 people maybe.
Right.
So this is going out to thousands of people.
I think that's fair, but I appreciate the,
Sorry, I was leaning on
the
the
thought that's going into that as well, is, you know, again, yeah.
For sure.
And the
Okay.
other component, and I know PJ and Dot can attest to this because they were here when we initiated RKD, which used to be called Alpha Dog. The whole reason why we started this was to make sure that there was consistent money
Yep,
coming in, because we can't always necessarily count on someone passing and putting us
I was
in
just letting you
their
know, that's why my
wills or
walkie was
whatnot.
going off and
So
on
the
for like
goal
5
was to
seconds
make
there.
sure that we had a donation account that was secured and had that ability that if things crashed, I could be like, hey guys, we're struggling. So, and that was kind of the whole goal. But also historically, we have not tried to spend over 100,000 on the mailers. So, and I would think by now that they would be like, they are not going to spend over 100,000. We should probably trim this down. But I think, you know, valiant effort, they keep trying.
Yep.
So,
Will they do that if you give them a budget?
oh yeah.
And they'll say, here's what we will
Yep,
do.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's kind of interesting to always see, but they did put in the overall presentation that I think I sent out, like
yep.
some of their new things they wanted to try, but like as Sophia pointed out, I mean, that was gonna be a big hit.
Yeah.
You know, and I was
It
like,
did have 10,000 contacts. That was the really expensive one they had that we were going to go negative on. So
Yeah.
I see where they were probably trying to cultivate new donors
Okay.
or something like that, but it's still very expensive.
Yeah, which
Right.
I will say the new donor numbers are pretty good in here, but getting new donors is not easy.
No.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if for whatever reason they've got the magic lists and, you know, what they're doing is working from that regard, like there's some inherent value there as well, because getting new donors is
Yeah.
really challenging. So,
right, and as I've been filling out thank you cards, I've seen like a sprinkle of more out of state
Okay.
Like not even local, state, like not Midwest. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why, but thank you. I appreciate your donation. So, and I don't know if those came
Yeah.
from new donor lists, because I know we
Yeah.
purchased a couple, I believe, this past plan for 2025.
And again, to your point, those are people that they're not coming to the Promenade Park event.
Nope.
Right?
They're not.
We're not gonna get them out.
No,
So,
we're not.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Other thoughts? Sorry, I'm hogging the floor.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to add that with Sophia still being pretty new, we don't want to add more to her plate. So she feels comfortable with the editing and doing what we're doing currently,
Sure.
but we need to give her time to be able to do that research that Nicole wasn't able to complete.
Sure.
So
Sure.
hopefully by the end of next year, I think we had a hopeful goal of September of next year, having some more
Yeah.
time to do that research.
And that would be whether or not it would be some that she's doing and
Yeah.
or new vendor, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, which I will say, having done some mailings when I was at the zoo, it was definitely time consuming because I would quote out printing companies and, you know, all these things, which I mean, if we would just use our own printer, that's one thing. But if, you know, we were putting together specialty newsletters, we were getting it on certain paper and all the things. And, and then the
Our
design
printer
work
goes down
and
every other day.
so it definitely was time consuming, whereas this is, it keeps me accountable of like, we have to have a mailing for them, like, and it's just plug and play, whereas it would be weeks of my time for other mailings, so.
I was just thinking about something Kyle said. I don't even know if you can do it, but can you take the money and put it into the market? Can we do that?
I don't know. I don't know how that works.
That becomes more of a question, I mean, typically if you're gonna go that route, you're gonna look more at an endowment.
Okay.
So something where you're just stashing dollars away and generating, you know, your 5% or whatever
Right.
interest just comes into your normal operating fund then. And to my knowledge, we don't have a active endowment in that sort of.
Community foundation we do.
Okay,
Because that's, at the end of the year, you're gonna get an interest statement.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where
From
does,
Helen Adams.
where does our balance sit now? Like, is it just in a checking account or,
Yes, it's at Lake City.
but just in a standard checking account? So, I mean, should we, sorry to, I know I'm hijacking this, but to
No.
kind of go off of what you're saying, should we form an investment committee that looks at taking a portion of that money and putting it in a higher interest
Yeah. higher
bearing
yield.
Savings.
account to, I mean, whether we put it in, 14-month CDs or whatever, we're obviously not touching a bulk of that money on an annual basis, and we're probably getting 1% return. Or if I look at what the Allen County Treasurer is doing, or the Controller is doing in the city of Fort Wayne, and we're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, we're averaging 7-8% return because we're not having to access that money every day.
Right.
So when we got $30 million sitting in all these extra funds, and we're dealing on a smaller scale, but, proportionally, it's probably similar. If we can put half that money in a higher interest bearing account
I think-
and pull back 5-6%, then it's better than 1.25% that we're probably getting.
Well, I will ask the controller what our current percentage is,
Okay.
as well as what our options are.
Yeah.
Because I honestly don't know.
Yeah, that's worth it. 'Cause I mean, to both your points, I mean, because, yeah, if there are ways that we can have this money work for us a little bit easier, better, and I think it's worth exploring all of those.
Sustaining account.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
and the reason I ask is typically, I don't know how our funds are segregated, but in the county, so say the treasurer has a fund of $5 million. That 5 million stays in the treasurer's account, but any of the interest that is earned off of that 5 million goes into the general fund. It doesn't come back unless it's specifically invested so that it comes back to the treasurer.
So we'd want to avoid gifting the
Yes.
rest of the city based on our,
Which I,
right,
which
yes.
I do know that our fund, our particular,
Yeah.
your commission fund does accrue interest and it does come back to you.
Okay,
So that's,
so then
Okay,
the next
that's-
question
yeah.
is what can we do as a commission to invest that to try to maximize the
Yeah.
return?
okay,
Yeah.
yep, I can
I
ask
think it's
that
worth
to the
exploring,
controller's
yeah. I
office.
think it's, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I can ask them about because we have the Helen Adams Animal Control Fund over at the Community Foundation. Some people can donate to it, you know, whenever they want, but at the end of the year, they always send us that interest, and they're
Okay.
like, what do you want to do? Do you want to reinvest it, or do you want it to come back here to your fund? And historically, your fund has been at a higher earning than Community Foundation. So,
Okay.
and so we've usually
Yeah.
just take the money and run.
Yeah.
That's what we do,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
But I'll still
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, I think all those things are, yeah, worth exploring, see what the options are. Okay. So coming back to
Yep.
this point, there was a number 91,307.
Yes, that's what we at least trimmed down the expense to,
Okay.
from the starting 117,000.
Okay.
So
But it sounds like everything you cut was a losing
Yeah.
proposition.
either losing or not
Breaking
high
even.
gaining,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Or just semi-offensive.
I was just gonna say,
Like, you didn't donate fast
a
enough,
bit
here's
annoying.
another reminder.
I mean,
And
it's
there
nice
are
to
so,
get
yeah, I
that.
mean, at a certain, because you don't want to, right, there's a delicate balance. You
Yes.
want regular touch points, you want to stay on people's radar, you don't want to seem,
And how are we,
Yeah.
how, from a mapping perspective or a calendar perspective, how do our mailings tie into what we're doing on like email outreach and stuff like that? Are they coordinated or, okay,
No, because it sounds like they give us like, this is what you can do during this month. Do you want to do something during this month or not? And so it's kind of just where we can adjust the content and make it a real story, because the story that they give us is just like, this is Bill the dog, and Bill the dog never existed. So we can make it real, and our newsletters, which we have a spring and a fall newsletter, we can fill those up pretty heavily with our own content and our own shelter happenings. But if you know, we said, oh my gosh, the SNAP fund is running low, let's do a mailing, we couldn't do it through RKD.
okay.
So,
and to your point though, so it's sort of that, what are we doing on the digital side versus print mail?
Yeah.
And how do those things sort of, balance? And I would guess, so probably the mailing list is going to be much more robust and curated by the RKD. Any sort of email list or digital piece is probably people who are closer in on our radar. Is that a fair?
yeah, or at least people that have already given, whereas
Okay.
they have that acquisition ability, whereas I don't think we're buying email lists.
Okay.
How does our funds generated from email compare to funds generated from direct mail?
What a great question. I mean, I think we have a good steady flow of online donations from what I've been seeing. I've noticed, when Delaney is sending our monthly email, I see a bump, and I see a bump when she posts about the Angel Fund, which she does very regularly.
That takes it to our website,
Yeah.
right, to donate there, so.
Yeah,
there's
so
no
it's not really
direct, like,
trackable.
it's
I mean, we
from
can see the
email.
clicks at least, but
And I had the same conversation actually earlier today, right? Connecting those pieces,
Yeah.
digital becomes challenging, even with mail sometimes, right? Because unless they fill out the thing that was actually mailed to them, and oh, this is the thing we sent in July, right? There are some ways to try and get some trends or aggregate patterns, and that might be helpful, but
Would
yeah, getting the true, hey,
would
John Smith
RKD allow us to
received it.
put QR codes on our mailers?
I don't know that they would, because when they send back their mailer, our donors are very trained on sending back the response card, and the response card has a special appeal code that ties the donation back to an RKD mailing.
Okay.
So when we're entering the gift, we type in that appeal code so that RKD can track their own success and give their staff
Yeah, but
bonuses and all
if-
the stuff.
If we have an online giving portal, we could, and there was a QR code,
Yeah,
the QR code would have the cookies that would track it back to that same mailing.
Our system doesn't have where you can put that in. The
Yeah. Boomerang.
Bloomer, yeah, they're two different. We'd have to make sure we figure out how they talk together. That would be the problem. I mean, not saying we can't, but
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
would be the hurdle.
Because I know for a fact that the web licensing component, which is what we use for also online donations, not Boomerang, they don't interface. It doesn't talk well to anyone at all. It's very archaic.
Technology.
Yeah, and
But I'm surprised RKD wouldn't have their own option for that. Like you could go on the QR code, go.
maybe
and-
they
and
do,
put a
but it's an
donation
upcharge.
at
yes,
the
but
top
we
of the
also have to
thing.
worry
Oh, well,
about
yeah.
the city side, because the city is very particular about what payment systems we are or are not allowed to use. Like, we can't use PayPal, we can't use Venmo, we can't use Zelle, we can't, so it's very, we have to use.
There's certain vendors that are government
Yes,
approved.
yes. Yeah, especially because of like the MFA component, you have to have that multi-factor authentication for safety measures. So, all great ideas, but no.
All objections divergent.
Yeah, no. Well, I appreciate this coverage, because it is, there's a lot of moving parts in this
Yeah.
sort of space, so, okay. So unless there's additional conversation, I would be more apt, I appreciate the thought and work that's gone into not only assessing and analyzing what they've put together, but then taking a, scalpel to it to figure out what really makes sense on our end. So I feel comfortable with what the staff has recommended, especially knowing that we've got sort of the short-term plan for what we want to do, so we can continue to bring dollars in, knowing that we have some future opportunities to maybe refine a little bit, maybe search for a different vendor, maybe do some stuff in-house, see what other systems might do. So to that end, I would make a motion to approve the amended mailing plan in the amount of $91,000, and I'm going to just round it up to $308, to cover the cost of the mailings that staff has outlined as most important.
Second.
All right, so we've got a motion, a second. Any other thoughts? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is approved. Appreciate all the conversation and work on that. Yeah. This is, okay.
Excellent. All right, so the last thing I have for you folks is an update on staff openings. Right now, we are interviewing, or initial interviews for the dispatcher position now that Jeff is back from his cruise. And we have a part-time vet still open. We have filled both ACO positions as well as both ACS positions. So we are looking good to start 2026.
Fantastic news. Okay, all right, anything from the group for the good of the order at this point? If nothing, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second that?
So moved. All right, all those in, we have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Perfect.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Is everybody?